What's up, guys? Steve Young, your baseball mentor with Athletes Approach Youth Baseball Mindset Mastery Group. Hey, I want to share with you what I believe to be one of the most powerful opportunities that your kid has in refining their character and even actually building confidence. And it's a circumstance that no parent, no kid really wants to find themselves in, and that's not playing. Being on the bench, all right, not starting, right? We all play the game to be out on the field, but what can be done when your kid is in a position where they are forced not to play because they don't have any control over that? How can they go above and beyond or do things that seem to be unnecessary? Every other kid that's on the bench, it might be 2 or 3 other kids on the bench, it might be one of the kids. Your kid might be the only one on the bench, right? But they're in a situation where they can still refine what I like to call their playing identity. Now, playing identity, really what we're trying to do when we're trying to build that out is trying to develop some convictions and some values that they play with, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of whether or not they are on the bench, whether or not they are starting, whether or not they're in right field because they got stuck in right field, whether or not their team is winning by a lot, it doesn't matter. This is who they are. Things like I'm always prepared. Things like I'm always learning. Things like I'm always watching to get an advantage. Things like I always have my routine. Things like I have good habits. Things like I always finish. I always run all the way to my position in the field. I always run all the way back. There's certain things that even in the circumstance. And the thing about being on the bench is that it's the place where most people just assume, like, hey, you're on the bench, like you don't really need to do anything. But that's such a great environment to help your son and to help your child really dial in and say, hey, if you're a player that is always prepared, how can you stay prepared on the bench? In my career, I wasn't always the starter, right? When I was in college as a freshman, there were 8 seniors, and I was on the bench all year. But one of the things that I would do is I would actually chase all the foul balls, so it kept me in the game. And then every time my teammates would come in, if they were on the field and they would come in, I would actually take a jog out to the fence, and then and so that kept me warmed up. And then there was like little routines like that I would do, and I always stayed ready, but I always kept my legs ready. And what happened throughout my freshman year is the coach started using me as a pinch runner. Well, because I was jogging in between innings, my legs were always pretty warm, and so it was a great way for me to just always be ready. But it really refined for me my own convictions that, you know what, whether I'm playing or not, I'm going to stay ready. And when I did get into the game, I was confident that I did what I could do to perform. And so when it comes to confidence, there's those opportunities, even when it seems like it's completely unnecessary, unwarranted, or even in many respects not as motivating. But that's the best. In my opinion, and I've seen this play out in my career, some of the best opportunity to really, as I said, refine that character and chisel that playing identity. Because when they can really build those convictions and they can really look back and say, you know what, even when I was on the bench, that's how I prepared, that's what I did. That becomes a very, very powerful sentiment that they can play with and from which that they play. All right, Steve Young, your baseball mentor with Athletes Approach. If you think this perspective is what was helpful to you, and you think that there's another parent that should know about it, or you want to share it, share this video with them. All right, I'll see you soon.